Okay, so here we are at the official beginning of to In the Shadow of the White City to Do Your Best epilogue one shot with Dia, a local Dalton power, though above reproach in regards to dealing with the troop at large, because they have, for the most part, kept very rarefied air, very rarefied taste. Their ties to the Dom of Dalton, their ties to one of the most spoken of senators of the Protectorate, one of the most spoken of senators of the village, yet also the most insularly protected because of their penchant for display. Nicole, the only child officially known of Nicole, pick up in the Piscateers Lounge, which is, for those of us who are not completely aware and abreast of the community, is a fetish club. It is kept outwardly despicable. It is the sort of place where one immediately checks their wallet even if they don't have one. It is a place that on the exterior makes one believe that they exited the real world and fallen into some pulp novel. The building is square and blocky and looks as if it's run down on the exterior. It's purposefully designed to be mildly off putting. It keeps away the looky loos, it keeps away the tourists, it keeps away, for the most part, those officials who would look into such things. Locally, amongst the kind, the Piscateers Lounge is a fishing club. It is a club where very focused fisher folk entertain and while away their time. In the front area of the club, the public accessible portion of the club, it is mismatched tables. It is chairs that look as if they need a severe amount of love and care. It is the sort of place where one would hope to not find themselves on a Monday afternoon after a rough start to one's business day. But looks can and often are deceiving. The first portion of the Biscuiteers Lounge is designed on purpose to be the most depressive, unwelcoming place to exist. However, further in, past what looks to be the entrance to one or more outside restrooms or outhouses, is a corridor and a hallway that is bedecked in the finery in almost complete total opposition to the front room of the Piscateers. Through that hall and down those stairs into the back rooms and lower levels is a place where those of most sexual taste can find a multiplicity of things that will tantalize, titillate, and bring to the fore the most carnal aspects of one's being. Nicole, usually, strangely enough, spends a good portion of her time as host or bartender in the front portion of the club. It is beneath her. It is completely and totally outside what one would expect of the only recognized toreador from the city in such a place. The South Suburbs is a wild place and, as such, not considered part of Chicago proper. And Nicole thrives in this environment, looked down upon and besmirched at every chance as she revels in the infamy. So, tending bar, she looks up to find Dia entering, her smile genuine.
Mm, I hope that your evening is going well, Nicole.
It could always be better, but you seem out of sorts, to say the least. Don't tell me you're as worried about Whispers and Tommy as I am.
They- It's been too long. They should have contacted us by now. But you know how they are. They get into trouble often.
You can say that for sure. Whisper's normally a little more cuddly and close to home, but Tom is always more curious than he should be. Remember the time we caught him snooping around?
I did.
His curiosity will definitely be, if not the death of him, the pain of him. But you're right. I expected to hear back from them far sooner, and Amanda herself has been scarce.
Mm.
Why don't you
Um,
use those lovely pianist-like fingers to do some walking through the yellow pages and find Amanda, or maybe speak with Jennifer and see, is there anything we can actually do so that we know what we can do and what we will do to make sure that our friends and associates in the sewers come home, at least, if not safe, at least sound as we can make them be.
flattery will get you everywhere. And they turn with their ribbons of dark espresso hair unbound, kind of floating behind them as they turn, almost like a cape, and open up the yellow pages with a soft lick to their thumb, flicking through, running their short but pointed fingernail to the right number and dialing.
It is an open secret that the Toreador keep far more hidden than they show, and they show an awful lot as far as the rest of the world is concerned. Cities far and wide consider the Clan of the Rose nothing more than adornment, useless as all art is. Yet, right beneath most other clans, sects, and cults' noses, the Toreador have invested themselves, their fingers, in almost every pie that kindred bother to bake. What was actually spoken of and mentioned as an actual yellow pages is a hard copy, a localized hard copy of information as to how to reach out and contact various kindred throughout the south suburbs and southern portions of the city itself. It is an often utilized tool that resides typically with the primogen of an area. Luckily for Dia, the primogen of the area is her very own sire. And while many would not know exactly what they were looking at, the very openly coded list of numbers and dashes and digits and reverse ciphers is actually a very well put together compendium of information as to how to contact, how to engage, and oftentimes how not to run afoul of others. The only information in regards to Geneva is the number two, the Adonis, as well as one number that, while officially listed to the Adonis, is never listed anywhere else. It is a private landline, which Dia knows has been redirected several times through different numbers to the satellite phone number that is Geneva's personal direct contact.
They perch themselves on a chaise, holding the phone and waiting.
Without without any exaggeration, Geneva is the oldest kindred in the village of Dalton. They have been here before it was even a postal location, far before the brothers and fathers settled their business here. Geneva was here, at least as far as rumors go. But they managed to somehow, up until the late 1800s, early 1900s, be nothing more than myth, and often spoken of ghosts that existed at the edges of the community. A helpful fairy godmother for some, and a vengeful spirit for others, but never linked to being a member of the kindred society. All the same, that voice which has strummed deeper, darker parts of Dia than they would care to mention, rests and breathes.
Lovely one. Forgive my intrusion this evening, but I have a few questions if you would entertain such.
Swallow a unneeded breath and inhalation of air. Geneva leans forward. You can tell based on how the voice reaches across the electronic line. You're back. How can I help?
Always so sweet. Hmm. Nicole and I had some thoughts to sewer dwellers are missing and due back. We have not heard from them in some time and are somewhat concerned. Would like to know what we can truly be seen doing in regards to such without stepping on toes. You know how that is.
I have several ideas how that is, my dear Concordia. However, in the present moment, to keep from ending several newer kindred, several members of our community, there's an envoy being put together to ensure our connection with Chicago proper. And this Dwayne's doing to better secure our borders and not have to rely on you and Nicole's very potent talent at breaking others' hearts. There are, after all, some pains that not even our enemies deserve. I do so hate this electronic form of reaching out and communicating. I will be at the Adonis within the hour. Why don't you meet me there? There's a gathering at Dwayne's property coming. I'd like you there to witness what takes place.
Hmm. I will enjoy seeing your face. Mwah. Until later. And they hang up. They know they're playing a dangerous game, but they're okay with it.
Listening to how calm and as little reflective as Geneva was, it speaks to how much they actually don't agree with this tact. Most people would never have picked up on such details, but the fact that they held themselves in such composure, yet spoke on it all the same, having experienced some of the inner workings of Geneva's being, Dia knows very well that this plan Geneva either believes will fail or is not supportive of in the least. But as always, being a manager first and the leader second, Geneva is willing to give the benefit of doubt based on suggestion of her advisors and the will of the people.
Hmm. Well, I relay the message to Nicole and prepare myself.
Nico chuckles bitterly at the idea. And as much as it is a show of their own strength and willingness to ignore most meetings of the Senate, unless, of course, they're held at the Piscatcheers directly, not being as much in the individual loop of the city does have its fall out. And that being that Nicole is a little miffed that Dwayne, i.e., the security advisor of the village, was able to push this idea. She has been pushing for the death of the initial envoys to Riverdale for a few months. She's very unhappy with the news that she's received and the fact that one of her associates is part of the Republic of Riverdale and spoken to her as to how rude they were when delivering the message, the threats that they leveled.
I console Nicole, of course. And, well, what did you expect from such lowborns?
I'm not one to expect much of any. The idea that they would find a way to initiate a war we don't need is troublesome. But even more troublesome, the idea that they were so rude. Very, very troublesome. But anyway, child, you go ahead, get ready, and get on to Geneva and see what this is all about. Make sure you keep thorough notes. You know how trustworthy Amanda's ramblings can be.
Of course. Always cautious and careful. And step to the back and freshen up, change into something more comfortable but stylish, as befitting a toreador, and brush their hair, make themselves ready, put on just a little bit of eyeliner, and be on their way.
The drive from the Piscateers to Adonis is a little more than a snap of the fingers. In that small time behind the wheel, gives Dia time to reflect on everything that's happened thus far. Since the disco, there's been violence in the street, and while Dwayne is a man of many skills, he can't be everywhere at once.
Hmm.
And putting out fires is better done in advance fire prevention. fire abatement. And that's literally the situation that he's found himself in far more than any singular kindred could. It's literally the need for assistance, a strong right hand, a strong team of, if push come to shove, fall guys and scapegoats.
There's the thought that maybe Dwayne needs his own set of sheriff and hound.
And just like that, as the thought settles finally and the synapses bumping against each other in rapid succession, forming the outline of the thought, you are there. The Adonis, as always, is, while not as warm and inviting as the Queen of Spades was, it is definitely a place that you know that many come to let their hair down. It is, while not a fetish club, they do a regionally well respected drag show nearly every night. People who are minor stars and minor celebrities in the drag scene walk and put on shows here as the premier alternative location. The back half of the club is a little bit more than a bar, less than a theater. The back half of the club is a stage and a dressing area, and it has a whole slew of very real theatrical arrangements. There's lighting. There's a catwalk above, which most people don't even realize is there. They can put on a very, very, if necessary, they could even put on a show as big and expansive as the Phantom of the Opera or Rent or Tripping Strange. It is a huge to do, and while not as well known or respected as the Queen of Spades was, for those in the alternative lifestyle, this is the center of the suburban universe. People come from as far away as Indianapolis, as far away as uh, northern Missouri and Oklahoma to put on shows here on their way to making it to the grand stages of those in the city. This is like the last off Broadway stop you can make before making it to the big time and putting on a show in the city. And it is Geneva's home away from home. It is Geneva's Elysium. It is the place where one would come to speak and have a conversation with the Dom of Dalton. So moving into the places, you see the opening act beginning as practicing their setup and making sure the lighting is right. You move through the club, a well-known fixture, so no one can say from what or from why. You find Geneva as per usual in the back green room, which has been taken as their dressing room. What most don't realize is there is an egress which leads through the basement through this particular room. There's a hidden stairwell that leads down into the basement, and from there are not many places in the immediate area we could not reach very quickly without being seen, tracked, or otherwise detained, which is why Geneva chose it.
Is the dressing room open or the door closed?
The door's always closed.
Oh, it's only polite to knock.
Concordia, come in. You arrived a little early, but as always, you were always one to make an entrance.
I'm glad you noticed.
I
And
always
they
know.
turn it off and come in, making sure to shut the door behind them, of course. Cross the room in several strides, take Geneva's hand, and of course, it was a pleasure seeing you this evening. Thank you for
And,
the invite.
but of course, Sid, make yourself as at home as you can. And with that, they turn back to the mirror and begin applying the finishing touches of their makeup, their dressing gown, hanging, draped in such a way as to draw attention, draw the eye, and force the gaze to slide along from shoulder, chest, down the line of their svelte yet clearly strong frame to those hips that, and with that, Geneva looks at you through the mirror, applying the last finishing touches of eyelash and mascara, making sure that the foundations are properly applied to accent those very high cheekbones and disguise the strength of the jaw there that you've witnessed when pushed to near limit, capable of tearing through bone, muscle, and rendering the victim all but useless in this life and the next.
Quite hard. That's what they're thinking to themselves, and they are looking. Obviously, I mean, beauty is appreciated, so they are looking. They drape themselves artfully and are openly appreciating. Not speaking, but yeah.
Concordia, dear, there's a meeting that I must attend. And despite our shared time and the following of such things, I'd like you, as representative of Nicole, to be near at hand. How much of our present situation is known to you that you're willing to speak on?
We asked for freedom and we're given it unobligingly. How mistakes have possibly been made. Things are unstable at best, but we are trying.
We most definitely are trying. Trying my patience, trying my time, trying the peace that was so hard fought to obtain.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for that outburst. Um,
it's
and they touch up their lipstick. The troop of kindred chosen to deliver the message to Riverdale has proven rebellious. No, rambunctious. There have been several sightings as to their actions across the village, the
mm,
repercussions of their action. If the news from Amanda is to be believed, they have accosted a member of the sewer rats on several occasions, and they have also been responsible for that fracas in Gary that had the abandoned king go up in flames almost. We still haven't found word of all of our agents that were hidden in Gary to ascertain the true strength of Modius's city. Seems as if they've met a rough end at the very best.
oh, quite fun though.
So, with all of the things in the air as they are, like agent provocateurs as skilled as yourself and your senator, to take an active hand in potentially assisting this troop so that I don't have to release Dwayne to exercise his penchant for destruction against our own kind. They, after all,
Nobody
are
wants that.
known. You know how dreadfully difficult it is to rein him in once that leash has been slipped.
Mm. Mm.
I'm
See,
sure that his attentions would be most problematic for Olin yourself.
quite true. You piqued my interest.
I should hope so. And with that, they rise from the chair, arms wide to show off their streamlining of their features, the accentuation of their eyes, and the fact that even with their hair pulled back so severely that you could see it draped in the idea of where their hair would fall. A little volume, a hint of a curl, and they are all but the spitting image of Jane Mansfield, crossed with Cher in her youth, though far more voluptuous, far more body present.
Perfect. As per you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so very much. And they move to the wardrobe and begin cycling through frocks. I thought to perhaps to go with a lighter blue this evening. However, I am not feeling on representing my emotional state this evening, so we will have to stay away from blue. Um, in regards to the troop, to give you a most immediate understanding, if rumors are to be believed, they are led by Gabriella's child. The moment that she says Gabriella's child, your blood cools. You know far more than most connections status in the city what actually befell Gabriella. Most people assume that Gabriella was at the disco, though in truth, Gabriella had been killed months earlier. And by killed, it is just that she had been assassinated months earlier to buy an indulgence for her children. Gabriella's children being Elias, the Riverdale fixer, and another whom she only revealed the identity to Geneva.
Fortunate. But what can we do?
It is unfortunate. It was one of the more cruel aspects of political machinations. She literally bought her children's continued existence with her life. It's not often that such a level of dedication or drive towards success or continued existence is paid by one kindred for another, even those of of the same blood. That sacrifice is still a bitter subject amongst those in the know.
So this child there needs help, I'm assuming. Or that's what's being said.
Hmm.
This child there needs help, is what you're saying.
Yes. And with Gabriella having paid a most severe price for their continued existence, it would be wasteful to allow their deaths to happen by accident at this point.
Oh, the copper, by the way.
The whom?
The copper dress.
Ah, excellent. Jennifer takes a moment, looks over the copper frock, nods, and moves to their shoe carousel. It is literally an 8 foot tall carousel filled with shoes of various stylings, colors, and you are more aware of the fact that they are literally not reproductions. These are actual shoes. It's like walking through a museum of time.
The envy of many a fashionista.
And as they settle on a pair of strappy, though strangely utilitarian, heels, Nineveh pauses. There is another matter entirely. In accompaniment with the assistance that Gabriella's child needs to continue existing. How familiar are you with the Samdi of the city, of the village?
One more again?
How familiar are you with the Samdi of the village?
Not very.
Most are not. They do their abject best to remain as hidden as possible. Their senators and advisors have taken great pains to assure their actual business of mendicating to the poor and assisting the kind in the city goes unremarked. I'm sure you are aware as to the many unending number of churches and holy places spread throughout the city. There literally is
Mm.
a church on at every quarter mile through the city for the most part. Some are larger than others, but even the storefront tend to strangely have a large congregation for their size. What Geneva is saying is that those churches are a network indivisible from this village as a whole, and yet hidden right under the very fabric that everyone else takes for granted. Their chief Hongan, their chief actual most, as I'm hearing, most powerful practitioner and family members, because that's what they call themselves, family, brother, cousin, sister, auntie, was at the disco. The disco cost us greatly. Not only did we lose Von Evan, but we lost many strong members of our village, and their absence has been felt greatly. As I'm sure the recent spate of violence has even reached your isolated, insulated ears.
It has. Shame what happened then. But
And a loyal
it's
member of the
done.
village. And lastly, I'm sure you are not unaware as to the growing reputation of Mr. Jaeger
Mm. Yes, yes. Much
to
said
keep
about
Dwayne
that
from
much.
having to execute his duties to the fullest and focus his attention. I have hit upon an idea. It is initially Dwayne's idea, but instead of it being carried to the extreme that he wished, I know that with a little assistance from James, that I might bring them to heel. That we might have a good, strong right arm and patsies should the matter fail.
Clever. More clever than I'd even expected it. Someone such as him. Interesting. Well then,
Own intentions and aims. So, Concordia, my dear, would you? And with that, Geneva actually drops to one knee, extends their right hand to yours. As close as that you two are, with Geneva having suddenly blurred from watching the shoe carousel go around, making a final choice to bent their one knee before you. It is apparent that they have fed. There is a vitality to their flesh, even beneath the makeup. There is a scent of cinnamon and jasmine to them. And having been in close proximity with Geneva, having shared so many private moments before now with Geneva, you know that scent. It is the scent that is prepared for their feeding. It is an incense and a parfum that is laid to set the stage. And the victims that have been brought in to those moments would recount them as a near religious experience, though you, having watched and partaken, know that it is everything but. It is a most carnal moment of sheer abandon.
there is a definite brow raise.
I ask again, Concordia, my dear, would you keep an overwatch on the tip of our sword in this matter? Their
Very
light
true.
eyes, their light eyes reflecting and absorbing the light around you. There is a slight mischievous glint that only those who partake in quiet moments with Geneva would ever be able to put their finger on. Meets yours. Their hand extended, the manicured nails and hydrated skin, looking far more alive than it should.
Take the hand offered and kiss each fingertip and nod courtly. I will.
The smile, mischievous in nature, turns a little darker, hinting at things particularly. And that chill of memory that rides down Dia's spine as they remember the quiet, stolen moments next to the Calumet River, those quiet, stolen moments before the Adonis was built, those quiet, stolen moments at the location of the Queen of Spades back when it was called the Double Drop, back when it was called Vanilla City, back when Von Evan was seemed the most dashing, focused kindred in all the world. And then Dia's back in the green room, back there with Jennifer. Thank you, dear. That is far more than I could have hoped and far more than I expected. Your kindness, your loyalty to the city, village, moves even my cold, dead heart. We are meeting Duane at his properties to properly stage the gifting of this mission to this troop. If you would like, I am aware as to some of the details that Chicago needs so that we might better strengthen our ties. Would you like to partake of them now and head along to scout the way? Or would you like to meet this troop?
They pause for a moment and kind of just stroke their chin about which course of action would be better. I think I should like to watch them from afar at first. Not let them know that I am there and then approach them at my own leisure. Kind of a guardian angel, if you wish.
That sounds delicious.
So
I'll
this
provide.
other
No, you were saying.
this other mission, Chicago information, I'll take that.
And with that chuckle, with that small, nervous remark from Geneva, you know that whatever is to befall this troop would not actually happen in Chicago. And therein lies the other foot, the other shoe. There's always more. As honest and direct as Geneva pretends to be on a daily basis, their showmanship and their ability to keep secrets with the truth and tell lies with flattery strikes that chord which, unfortunately, is par for course. It is the rigor at this point. It is one of the many reasons why Dia, on top of the many other issues that fall into play when one kindred dealing with the other, why Dia ended an established space between them. Because Geneva never lies, but they are never ever telling the entirety of the truth.
They
Well,
stole their face to hide the annoyance.
well, while the actions taken are to strengthen our ties with Chicago, the actual location is Milwaukee. And there it is, the other shoe.
Really? No walk.
Yes. Prince Decker seemed to be leaning on Prince Jackson's hospitality with no end in sight, clearly. As far as I'm aware, Milwaukee has requested Chicago's aid no less than 5 or 6 times in the last year and a half. Seems as if they are relying on Chicago's ability to provide cannon fodder, strength of arms, and bodies to offset their own.
Oh, how I despise that place.
Well, it is still a very worldly city despite its reputation. And they do have a lovely arts scene with the pretty pictures, pretty people. And if you are able to ensconce yourself, you'll be able to better guide our troop. They should be arriving within 3 days, actually. There's a meeting scheduled for them with the prince himself at the Black Rose. Perhaps if you head along, you'll be able to ingratiate yourself to Prince Decker and the city in advance of their coming.
Hmm. You act as if I can't charm near anybody. But I'll take that into advisement. I will
And,
get show.
and smiling, Geneva steps behind the screen, and as always, there is a bit of showmanship. There's a bit of design to it. While the screen is older than most kindred that are operating in the city, that age and that care taken to maintain it only extends to the wood. The silk of the frame, the silk of the screen itself, is thin enough where the small bit of almost candlelight echoing from the light behind it is enough to highlight just how well formed Geneva is as they remove their robe, as they slowly don their undergarments, the leggings, the various other accoutrements, and then finally slip the dress on over their head. All done in shadow play so that you have the opportunity to watch and partake and still not be able to partake as there is a distance and a barrier between you and them.
In the course of the show, I've gotten to my feet in preparation to leave, so that when they come back from around the screen, I am on my feet.
A smile and a small twirl, allowing the draping of the chosen copper shift to settle in. Geneva moves to you. Without asking, takes your hand. I thank you for your help. As always, you are one of the few kindred of the city that I can truly be myself with. Thank you, Concordia.
Give them another courtly bow, turn and leave.
Which means I kind of should go ahead and roll your wits and subterfuge. Your target number is 4.
Wait, what? Ooh, I'm gonna have to do a willpower because I only have 3 dice in that pool.
Oh, there's always a chance for critical success.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah. Only 2.
All right. Well, as you exit the green room and attempt to mentally wash yourself of that engagement because it was too close and too far and not trusting and shaky and to top it off, that thank you was horribly, obviously, and factually true. Even as the memories of not having the whole of any truth, the memory of knowing that Geneva always has another thing that they are not saying. And yes, the fact that they never lie through commission Omission is still a sin in Concordia's thoughts. While she uses that weapon against others, it is still not something that she is a fan of being a victim of. And it's only as she is slipping, well, they are slipping out of the Adonis, do they realize that in that thank you, in that rush to hold hands, in that brush of touch, fucking Jennifer, there is a small sliver of 3M post-it firmly stuck to the palm of Dia's hand. On that slip of paper is written in such a small script that it should be impossible to read, yet legible all the same, are three addresses in Wisconsin that Dia knows are temporary safe houses that Geneva has access to.
There is a clenching of jaw. And they get into their car and return to the club to pack for Milwaukee.
The annoyance of it all, not just the fact that Geneva did so and that the plan is laid in, that Dia will watch as guardian angel for the troop, chosen by Dwayne to either be the Lamb of God or the sacrificial lamb for the village, is that one of the safe houses, and the reason why Dia knows they are safe houses that Geneva maintains, is that they spent a lovely weekend during the summer of '85 hidden there just on the edge of the city, watching the fireworks south along the lake line as Navy Pier put on one of their largest shows because the Bears had won the Super Bowl that year. They spent several long, enjoyable weekends taking in the city and themselves.
Boy, that, like, can't believe you did it to me again. This is the conversation that is happening in the car on the way back.
As you arrive, and it's late enough in the evening that Nicole has made her way from the bar and instead is operating as a server on the main floor, conversing and a lot of "oh child," "oh girl," "oh" going on, and you can from a distance appreciate the showmanship, but you know Nicole, and you know the tenor and candor of most of the kind that visit the place, and you know that it is all for show. You can see through the acting because you know that it is in fact acting and not Nicole's true character, and that she gets off on confusing, confounding, and otherwise pulling the wool over everyday people's eyes, all the while without revealing any truth about herself. And it is in that realization and in that moment that Dia wonders why Nicole and Geneva don't get along far better than they do. Publicly, no one would ever be able to tell that there's any grief or strife between the two of them. But in those quiet moments where they've spoken with and about each other, you know that in fact that they don't like each other. They are only in association due their both of their belief that this village is more important than their individual needs or wants or pleasures.
Reminds me of a saying my grandmother had about those who are too much alike not being appreciated, shown a mirror of themselves.
Yes, there's definitely that aspect to it. And as you pack, there's no surprise when Nicole is there at the door to your grouping of back rooms, one of which is your play area, the other where you could technically live, though live is pushing it a bit. All the same, there is your accessories and gathered belongings that you keep near at hand. You seem to be packing for more than just a quick trip.
So you know me, I like to be prepared, but no walking.
That's a good thing. I was afraid that they may have been speaking of a visit to Indianapolis.
No, thankfully it's not that bad yet. But now I am to play baby.
Well, treat them like children and reward them with their pain.
You know how much I hate children. But Nanny dear it is. It's either this or let Dwayne kill them.
There is some benefit to that option, actually. If he's busy with them, he won't bother to look into what we've managed to arrange in Riverdale.
But at the same time, if I keep them alive for longer, he will watch them for long. Because once he's done with them, then where does his attention go? Back to us. So,
I have, I have considered that, and I've taken pains to ensure that there are other happenings that could keep his attention. We'll speak on that upon your return. There is a plan afoot, especially with the lack of contact from Amanda. I will talk later. Enjoy your trip. Return safely and quickly. I have tables. They want the catfish nuggets for some strange reason. And she walks away.
I packed several of my less fancy, I'm not trying to be too showy, outfits, but still put together as I should be. And hairbrushes and accoutrement of all sorts.
Excellent. So, prepped and prepared and dressed and packed, Dia heads out to her car and begins the arduous, though not excessively long, trip to Milwaukee. The expressways, as always, with dealing with the night and those who go bump in it, is always fraught with its own sorts of troubles, its own sorts of issues. There are several ways that she can arrive in Milwaukee, but from coming from where they are, the easiest way is to take 94 all the way down for the most part. In doing so, she comes across the very real and problematic aspect that's starting roughly around 47th all the way to Roosevelt. Traffic is packed going in both directions. It seems as if something huge and very unsightly has taken place in and around the 22nd, 18th Street, somewhere in there, as far as Chicago is concerned. There are fire trucks and police cars and SWAT vehicles on the expressway, on the bridges. It is a mess. And instead of it taking the usual roughly just under 2 hours, if you floor it, it takes right at 3 for you to get there. And as you touch down into the most watched electronically Midwestern city, and you watch the pall of annoyance fall over her. She feels the depression that exists in such a well watched, policed state. We will draw to a close with Dia choosing between the three locations that Geneva provided for to set up shop, to set up her temporary haven, and begin enmeshing herself in the city as a whole. There are several things that she knows she needs to do in the Camarilla city, namely find one of the prince's retainers and plead entrance, explain why she's there, and prove her usefulness in a short amount of time. But I want to thank you so very much. It's been fun laying the groundwork for many of the machinations happening in Dalton, and hopefully not all that many machinations happening in Milwaukee.
It was fun.